Hello class. The directions today I'm going to give you is for activity 19, which is fingerprinting. You're going to make fingerprints. This is also a GEMS activity that goes in with the same curriculum of criminology. Fingerprints, as you may know, is a well-known way to find criminals. They say no fingerprints are the same. Even with identical twins, they have different fingerprints. They say your toe prints are different. So, outside of fingerprints, your retina, the capillary, that's how they also use technology to let you get into places as you're doing a retinal scan. So you are unique. We're all unique. I've got a little article in there in your book about how they caught a murderer that came out of the newspaper. It's an old newspaper clipping, and they said they didn't use it as the thing that convicted the person, but they used it as circumstantial evidence. Basically, he had put his ear against the door and left an ear print. And there was a scientist that said every ear is unique, and they used the configuration of his ear to catch this person. So what causes fingerprints? I've read that it's caused by at birth, not at birth, while you're in the womb, and it's basically the baby pushing up against the amniotic sac. Is that what it's called, I believe? Uterus. I really don't know why fingerprints are the way they are, but that's one thing I've read. I like to talk about interesting people that, like Anne Boleyn, supposedly she had 6 fingers, so she would have had 12 fingerprints. But I've since learned that that's really not true, that they just said that because at one time people with extra fingers were considered to be evil and they kind of demonized her. So that's probably not a true story. So what do you do for your own fingerprints? Basically, take your hand and trace an outline of your hand, because we want to have a place to put our fingerprints, like this. Flip the page over. This is where you may need a friend to help you do this. Of course, with social distancing, maybe not a friend, maybe a relative that's staying in the house with you would be what you would want to use. I'm able to do it by myself, so maybe you can do it by yourself. All right. In class, what I normally do is I come by each person's table and put a long strip of tape on their table. And your fingers are going to get dirty for this, so it'd be good to have a strip of tape all ready to go before you do this. I think the directions say to draw a 3 by 5 centimeter rectangle, and the key for this to work really well is you want to get it as dirty as you can, the rectangle, and you can do this on a piece of scratch paper, because the more graphite you get on here, the better your print's going to be. So just get as much graphite in there as you can. One of my jokes of the semester coming up here. So, like when you're down there at the police station, now, you don't really roll your thumb for this. The best way to do this, and I'm jumping ahead, before you get your fingers dirty, tear strips. You might need scissors. This is strong tape.
Use your tape.
Tear you 12 pieces. And no, I don't think you're like Anne Boleyn with 12 fingers. You may be, I don't know. But it's good to practice a couple of times before you make your prints. So go ahead and do a couple of extra ones. And I'm not going to tear it all 12 pieces, but you get the idea. So after you got your 12 pieces torn, about 2 to 3 centimeters in length, take your finger and just get it as dirty as you can. Don't roll it, because you're not using an ink pad. You're just trying to get your finger really dirty. And see how dirty that is? Take your tape, and I think it works best if you do it up and down instead of crossways like that. After you get it all on there, then peel it off and put your tape. So this was my right hand, right thumb. Well, practiced a couple of times. Let's say I practiced a couple of times. Put your fingerprint there, and that's the way my thumb looks. I don't know if you can see that very well. What I want you to do is to do all 10 of your fingers, and I want you to look with a magnifying lens. Try to see if you can see a type. Basically, there's 3 fingerprint types. At some point, after you've identified your 3 types, get a count. Share with your group members your count of your 3 different types. And I want y'all to get an average of the types at your table or your group. And I'm going to put a Google spot for you to put that on there, and we'll see what the whole class, not an average, you don't need to get an average, get a count of how many of these 3 types you have. The names for these types are in the activity, and I don't want to, first I really want you to look at your prints before you start identifying them by the name, so I'm not going to really talk about that. But at some point I'm going to want you to put on the Google site how many in your group are these different types, and we'll see what our class looks like with regard to this. It should, in theory, come out to 33% of each one of those types. Because, I mean, it is random. Your prints are random. A lot of times students wonder what it means, but I'm telling you, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a random thing. So do that for me, and we'll move on to the next activity. Thank you.